Hi everybody, glad to have you here. I've just been told we are approaching an impressive number of 100 attendees. And I'm being told that you cannot hear me already quite right, so I'm just saying this again and a little bit louder. Hi everybody, glad to have you here. I have just been told that our attendee list is approaching 100 attendees. Probably growing a bit more beyond that. Unfortunately, I can't see you, but at least you can see some of me here. And I honestly hope that next time around we can look at each other again in a more personal and non-digital setting. My task this afternoon is to introduce you to QuickFix. And I'll walk you through how we came up with the idea of actually putting QuickFix together, and then exactly what it is and what you can do with it. Some background, just until pdfToolbox 12 arrived, all the time before, for quite a number of years actually, we have had fix-ups, features you can use, or a feature that you can use to manipulate a PDF file in many ways, going from minor adjustments to corrections to color conversion, to whatever you need in your workflow. Over the years, it has become quite powerful. Options are endless. Even I, as one of the people who put it together in the last decade or so, sometimes lose track of all the things you can do, and I have to ask somebody else in the team. The power of fix-ups comes a little bit from that you can filter very precisely what to fix and what not to fix. And you can do that at very fine granularity. So powerful features with a lot of options to target it at exactly what you want to get manipulated in one way or another. Now, as with all the good things, there's a downside. Some fix-ups take longer as one would hope or expect. In many cases, this goes back to the fact that we are firing up quite a heavy machinery, the fix-up engine. And of course, if you want to be able to do lots of things and have a lot of flexibility, that will lead to a piece or to an engine that's not tiny anymore. And just firing up the engine and collecting all kinds of information that are the basis on which to decide what to fix or convert or transform in one way or another will take some time. We have heard your requests over the last years. We should make certain things faster, especially things where both from the outside, you as a customer, and also from our side as people who have a good understanding of the internal workings, would say, well, isn't there a way to do this faster? If I just want to adjust a trim box or rename a spot color, do I really have to fire up this heavy engine and eat my way through a big file just to find that one spot color and change its name? That's how we got started thinking about QuickFix. The idea was it's somehow like fix-ups, but substantially faster. That was the design goal, and I think we reached that design goal in quite a nice way. And it's not just that we took the fix-up engine and tried to optimize it and do certain things faster. We took a fresh approach and decided we had to redesign the whole thing from scratch. And it actually goes back already quite a bit of time. So it's based on a completely new PDF processing engine, some of which shares source code and functionality with QuickFix, which was introduced in the previous major update. And instead of just finding stuff very quickly in the PDF file, it has been designed to be able to also change things in a PDF file. So it's definitely optimized for speed. And the purpose is that we should become able to do certain manipulations much, much faster. And at the same time, there's always a downside again. We decided to accept that flexibility will not be the same as with fix-ups. So all the zillion ways how you can filter exactly what to change and how to change it, it will be somehow limited. So there's much less filtering that you can do and much less context-specific options to express how and what you want to change. And there's also another downside. There are only some fix-ups that have a QuickFix equivalent. So not everything you can do with a fix-up, you can also do with a QuickFix. And in some cases, there's obvious reasons. If you are about to change just every page description in very complex regards, then you have to eat your way through all the page descriptions and change whatever you're changing. Yeah, that will take some time, and we will still try to make fix-ups faster as well over time. But don't expect that you have a speed improvement of 500% or something like that. So where would you find quick fixes if you looked at the new version of pdfToolbox? You can find a new option in process plans labeled QuickFix, surprisingly. So you can insert a QuickFix step in your process plan and then configure it so it's going to do what you want it to do. You can do almost the same thing using a special variant of the QuickFix step in a process plan, where what you want to do is not expressed by configuring the options in a user interface, but instead where you have to enter JavaScript. For a number of reasons that can be very interesting, especially if you are good at doing JavaScript, or you have somebody who can do that for you. And I will get into some details in just a moment. You can also, that would be in the context where you have found fix-ups in the past, you can also now create quick fixes in this list of fix-ups and quick fixes, where you would be configuring just a quick fix. And you could use it on its own as opposed to having to run a process plan that may or may not contain other steps. And last but not least, in pdfToolbox and the command line versions and also in the SDK, there's a way to run it in the QuickFix mode, where you provide it on the command line with a path to a JSON file, where the JSON file expresses exactly what QuickFix to apply and with what options. And now I'm looking for my piece of paper that I just put here. Just hang on for a second. Da waren mehrere Zettel und der oberste war meiner. That would help me. I took a few notes and put them next to my presentation table here. And just not to lose track of what I'm going to tell you. Yeah, notes are excellent, especially if you have them at hand. Sorry. So you see it's really live here. We're not faking anything up. So, well, I'm going to go into a couple of areas where you can find quick fixes and what you could do with them. I urge you to look at the documentation for pdfToolbox 12 on help.callassoftware.com. So in that case, I've written that part, and I've tried to make it as useful as possible. So I found myself in the same situation as you will find yourself. So I had the feature available to me and was starting to play around with it. And I ran into a number of questions and obstacles. How do you do this? And what about that? And how can I get there? So it's all written, all the stuff I could think of is written down in the manual, especially some specific things you need to know to make it work well for you. So please check it out after this presentation if you want to get more familiar with it, or once you start doing something with it and you're stuck. this will lead me to a short demo, and I'm firing up pdfToolbox, obviously, and let me make this a little bit bigger. And first thing I want to do is look at the process plan. And now I need my glasses, actually. So I'm creating an ordinary process plan. In the UI we have been implementing in the last year or two. It's an empty process plan, of course, and I want to just add one step that is a quick fix here. So here in this list, among all the other step options you have had for a while, there's a new quick fix one. Drag that onto the canvas, trying to be tidy from the beginning and connect it with the right connections. In the real world, you may want to have more advanced failure handling maybe, but I'll focus on just the quick fix here. Selecting the quick fix, I now have the option to either insert an existing quick fix, and in the pdfToolbox version you can download now, or maybe have downloaded, you will also find some of these here that you could use right away, but I'll make one from scratch. So here in the upper right, I'll go to the plus icon to create a new quick fix step. And let's scan first what we can do. So I'll give it a name once I have made up my mind exactly what to do. There's a drop-down list where we have listed all the things you can do. And again, let me make this a little bit bigger here. Lots of stuff. You can either scroll this at your leisure once you find the time to do this, or you look at the manual again, where there's some description for each of these. What I find nice is you can actually specifically search for one of these. I know there's something that's making pages larger, so I'm searching for large, and it gives me enlarged pages. So I've made up my mind. I want to do something that makes pages bigger. And to actually make this a part of my current configuration, I have to do insert step. And this will give me the option to actually decide what to do, in this case, for which pages. Looking at this, I also want to point out that you could do more than one thing that enlarges pages, and you use a plus sign, and so you have 2 or 3 or whatever options to configure something to enlarge pages. So just to make the point here is, let's say I wanted to enlarge all even pages to the right by 10 millimeter. And all the odd pages to the left again by 10 millimeters. So what's important to know here, this comes up also in many other types of quick fixes. I cannot just do even or odd pages. I can use a so-called page selector. Please check it out in the manual for all the details, but I could do something like every 4th page, or a page range, like 3rd page to 2nd to last page, if I want to skip the cover pages, etc., etc., etc. The syntax is a bit daunting at start, but it's quite powerful. It's actually the same syntax we use for PDF file splitting. Some pieces do not apply in this context, but like 95% of all the things you can do in splitting PDFs, you can also use in this context, and very powerful. And because you can combine it with several parts in this quick fix step, you can achieve quite a lot of things. So there still is some filtering, but you cannot filter based on content, for example. Okay, so I have just defined and enlarge pages, QuickFix, 10 millimeter to odd, even on left and right side. Okay, so this is my, maybe I should name the process plan accordingly, enlarge pages, 10 millimeter, and I have one of these wonderful power books where the keyboard does not always do what I wanted to do. Or actually it's called MacBooks by now, right? PowerBooks was 15 years ago. And I could close this dialog and then try it out on my PDF files. As has been said in many other presentations from our side, we have had the test button for a while. This is a good way to find out whether the stuff works in principle. Highly recommended if you start setting up a new QuickFix or just about any other thing that does something with PDF files in pdfToolbox. I'm going to click on test. Yeah. Oh, it's done already. It took actually a bit longer because I had looked profile execution on, so it kind of creates a lot of files on the side, so you can double check exactly what was happening. So and now I now see, I see it, maybe you see it as well. So this is an all page, first page. So 10 millimeters were added to the left. And then on the next page, which is not actually just an even page, but a facing page, but for the purpose of this demonstration, this shall not matter. 10 millimeters of space have been added to the right of the page. So far, so good. You can do similar things in all kinds of other areas. And just to give you an idea, there are very technical things that you only run into once you have a problem. And maybe after you contact support and they tell you there's a rotate key on the page and this confuses some softwares. And we have a way to kind of transform the page so that it does not need the rotate key anymore, but is rotated to begin with in the right way. So you can do that. You can duplicate all pages. You don't need this every day, but occasionally it comes in quite handy. You can embed output intents, you can enlarge pages. You can do something with dpart, which I will cover towards the end of this presentation. You can insert empty pages after each page, before each page, after page 3 or whatever. You can rotate pages. Scale pages, work with the page geometry boxes, so set the crop box to something else, or the media box, or put the media box at the origin against something that some pieces of software have need, so not to confuse them. You can work with processing steps, metadata, the metadata associated with layers to tell actual printing content from non-printing content, and so forth. Another area not showing up in this list is you can do all kinds of things with spot colors. You can rename them, you can adjust the appearance, you can merge spot colors where they have slightly different names. You want them all to be one name, and so on. So that's about a quick fix step inside a process plan. So far, so good. I'll make another one to show you how you can make use of JavaScript. Again, let me drag in the QuickFix again. Make the connections, start configuring it. Again, I will make a fresh one. And so this will have to do something with a JavaScript-based configuration. And again, use a search function here, just search for JavaScript or whatever, and it gives you JavaScript-based configuration as an option, which you can insert as a step. And now it expects you to do something with JavaScript. I do know some JavaScript, but I'm lazy. So I go to the online documentation, and now I have to think. And I go through the documentation for all the features, and I have to do something that you can actually see here. So here are all the spot color ones, and maybe I do a scale, rotate, because that's obvious in its effect. And so here is a part of the JavaScript I would need to express the configuration for rotation. There's actually something missing. Okay. There's two places in the online documentation where you can find code for JavaScript. On the one where it talks about the command line, it's a complete list of actually functioning stuff. I'm still wondering whether this is correct. I did not try out this part before the presentation. Let's apply rotate here. That's the wrong one. Here. I was missing the angle. So I'll go back to pdfToolbox and insert this. It's important to know this is not a JSON configuration. This is a JavaScript configuration. So you actually have to have JavaScript code, not just a JSON expression. So that means you have to have a variable and assign this expression to that variable. So this is my config. Please use a more speaking name when you do this in production. And actually an equal sign would help. And then I just use my config and put it on the stack, so to speak. So I'm defining a variable with a value, where the value is a JSON expression that tells QuickFix what to do. It has the name of the feature I'm using, rotate pages. The version number is for internal purposes. Once we come up with a later version of how you do things, we may need a version 2, and then the engine needs to be able to differentiate between version 1 and version 2. Not really needed at this moment. And then you have instructions. You actually say exactly how to do things. So in this case, I have a page selector. So I could say even, odd, all pages, only page 1, and so forth. Let's do page 2 to 3. And I want a rotation by 90 degrees clockwise. So I do this, rotate 90 degrees, page 2 to 3. So just I know next time when I open this what I've actually wanted to do here. I confirm. I have my process plan. 90 degree. Again, I would use the test function here, just not to lose too much time with closing and opening dialogues and files, to understand whether I've done the right thing here. And this is live. I don't know whether this is going to work. Come on. It's not very rotated. Okay, I apologize. Something must have gone wrong. Let me look at the code. Let my config be rotate pages, instructions, page selector 2 to 3. Let's put there all again. Rotate by 90. Down, close my config. Just close this and open again. Test. No. So at a later stage after this presentation, I will inform you why this didn't work and how you actually get it to work. The important thing though is that you get the idea that you can use JavaScript. And of course, this is boring. Yeah, you just copy and paste something. You could as well set it up in the user interface and do the same thing. Actually, I will show you the debugging approach in just a second, which comes to my mind. Good opportunity to show that. you can do more useful things. You could, for example, run a QuickCheck, understand what's going on in your file, and then use a JavaScript code here in this place to analyze the information you gathered from the QuickCheck, and then make informed decisions about which page to rotate how much. Maybe you'll rotate page 5 by 90 degrees and page 27 by minus 90 degrees. Yeah. And that's how this becomes powerful. For your simple setup, it's probably a waste of time and you just do it in the user interface. But if you want to come up with something that depends on other information you have, JavaScript is the way to go in this context. And again, just to point this out, QuickFix in itself does not have a lot of filtering opportunities, but it does have some powerful ones by using JavaScript and making use of information you have by means of other mechanisms, whether that's a QuickCheck or something you inject into the file from some database, whatever. So I'm going to, because this is the same situation that I'm just having, it does not work, that you may go through on your end. And I will configure a rotation QuickFix by user interface now. So again, grab a QuickFix, link it, go to the UI, rotate pages, rotate all pages, actually insert the step. This is wrong, sorry. Rotate pages, yeah, insert the step, all pages by 90 degrees, yeah, so all page selector is set to all pages for the sake of simplicity. Rotate by 90 degrees, done. And then do a test. Aha, this looks more rotated than what I have been doing. This is good. And now I will do it again after clicking on log profile execution.
Already sent you this.
I'm just being sent something. Okay, let me get there in a second. I've just been shown something on the side from one of our team members. But the important thing is what I'm going to show you. You enable log profile execution. Come on, yeah. Okay. Do the same thing again. Just click on this test button again here. So it's taking the original file again and rotating again. It's still just doing this by 90 degrees, same effect, but it's opening up a folder with all kinds of information that you always get from log profile execution. And it has the original file, the result, and the process plan as a KFPX file, and so on. If you open these, you will also find a QuickFix folder. And that's interesting because it has a JSON file in it. And the JSON file has very interesting content. That's content I should have put inside my JavaScript dialog if I wanted this to work correctly. So a quick view gives me this, and there must be some minor detail that I did not get right. Doesn't matter. I'll open this in text editor, copy the whole thing, go back to my JavaScript-based configuration, and which is not, what did I do? Page 2 to 3, also not. Yeah, if I would chosen a name I actually remember, rotate pages. So this one, yeah. And I will nuke this and then add this. Okay. Don't know exactly how this is different from the other piece, but let's do a test again. Yeah, so I just grabbed the JavaScript that's inside this, oops, this JSON file that was there just a second ago, and it's gone away because I closed my test dialog. So it's cleaning up after the test cycle. And let me test again. Yeah, so it's rotated as well. There must have been a small error in my code or my way I copied and pasted it, and it didn't work. Now it does work. So this log profile execution checkbox can be a real time saver if you start putting something together and it just doesn't work. Okay, very good. And let me add JavaScript in case I search for this again in the name of the process plan. Okay, so we have seen what types of quick fixes we can use. We have seen where to find them in a process plan. We have learned you can either configure them using a dialog, good way to start things and try them out. We can also use a JavaScript approach where we have to provide the configuration information in a JSON form, but using JavaScript. And this makes it possible to make a lot of decisions exactly what to do and where to do it. Yeah. So it would not be limited to just one type of quick fix. You could do all kinds of quick fixes in such a JavaScript flavor. You can have parts of such quick fix steps like rotate all pages this way, even pages that way, and then do something else with the cover pages, etc. There's another area in this dialog where you have a list of your profiles, checks, and fix-ups. Actually, this should not say just fix-ups anymore. It should say fix-ups and quick fixes, but we'll probably leave it at fix-ups just not to confuse too many people. And here you can directly create, edit, or run a quick fix on its own. So you would do create quick fix. And this dialog may look familiar to you. It's exactly the same dialog that we were seeing when we inserted and edited a quick fix in the context of a process plan. Same list of features. Let's do something with spot colors. Rename spot colors, insert them, decide what to do. Spot color name contains red, and you want to call it logo red, and so on. So just a very simple renaming in this case. Again, and you would run it. The file I have open at this moment does not have spot colors, so I'm not going to play around with this file, but I think you get the idea. And then also here you can do the same thing. You have access to the JavaScript-based configuration and do that. And as you can see, you can mix and match inside such a quick fix. So you can rename spot colors, run something that is based on JavaScript, and then maybe add another step that does something with page geometry boxes. Maybe you want to do something with the trim box on all pages. You want to set the trim box to the crop box, but 10 millimeters to the inside, which I think should then say the 10 or minus 10, I've forgotten. Anyway, you just use it, you try it out. I would have to look it up. So I think you get the idea. You can actually have as many pieces of quick fixes inside this one quick fix configuration as you want. And many of them are multi-part on their own. Yeah, so you can do another rename spot colors and work with the green ones, and then you do whatever you want to do. Very flexible. And the only way to get really acquainted with that is you should play around with it and just do things and try to do as many things in one go as you can. Not because you need it now, but to have a better understanding of the mechanics. That's that part. And the last area where QuickFix can become interesting is on the command line. This has a big advantage, especially in situations where you want to process a high volume of files as fast as you can, because there's no overhead. When you're running pdfToolbox in QuickFix mode, you're actually not launching pdfToolbox. You're only launching a module, the QuickFix module, which is relatively tiny in comparison to everything in Toolbox combined. And by definition, starts much faster, has a fast engine, and is done much faster. Going to the command line for this. I've tried this out before, that this should actually work. And this is technical. Look it up in manual if you want to actually understand all the details. But what I'm doing here is I'm calling pdfToolbox. I'm using the QuickFix parameter to turn it into QuickFix mode. So this is telling pdfToolbox, don't launch the whole engine, just launch the QuickFix engine. I'm pointing to a configuration, and this is a path to it, and it's actually a JSON file called QuickFix JSON, which I actually copied from a log profile execution test, so I would not make too many syntax errors. And in this case, it's a JSON file. It's just a JSON expression. It's not JavaScript that gets executed. You can't do any magic using JavaScript. It's just the, let me show this again. It's, so to speak, just this highlighted portion from this part of the documentation. This is a JSON expression. Yeah. There's no code that is executed. So first parameter actually is after the -- QuickFix is the JSON config file. Then I'm pointing to the PDF file I want to process. And this is actually not needed, but it doesn't hurt. It's the same path and file name again to just replace the file with the modified file. And in order to stop pdfToolbox from incrementing the file name by adding underscore 0001, 0002, and so forth, I'm specifying -w, which tells pdfToolbox just overwrite. Don't bother with making copies and saving the original file. And if I use -w in QuickFix mode, it's actually not overwriting the file. It's appending information to the file. PDF has always had an update mechanism starting from PDF 1.0 in 1993, where you could add certain data structures of the PDF file to the end of the PDF file. And these data structures would replace some of the data structures that already existed without having to delete them and rewriting the whole file. So if I just change a spot color name, that's a relatively small data structure in the PDF file. It's what is called an indirect object, where some other data structures point to, and then it again points to other things. By just adding a small object at the end of the file for a spot color name that has a new name and kind of hijacks the object that was there before, I can rename the spot color, and I may only be adding a few hundred bytes to the file. And this applies to many other cases. Sometimes we have to rewrite a little bit more. So in this case, I think this is, again, enlarging the page size, the example I'm running here. And then we have to touch every page object. So it's a more costly operation, but still much faster than what's going on with the fix-up in pdfToolbox. But in some cases, renaming spot colors, it's really like, it's just done. One object written to the end of the PDF file, relatively small. For obvious reasons, this can be relatively fast. So this is a file with 13,000 pages, which I'm enlarging. And I have just to make sure it's not enlarged too much already. Where is it? This one here. So it looks relatively sane. So let me run this. It will take a moment because it's 13,000 pages. And I compared it to the fix-up just earlier this day. It's about 3 times faster. It's one of the heavier operations in QuickFix because it touches every page. and has to do something to, in this case, to make the page size larger. So it's ending probably around 30 seconds. But on Toolbox desktop in fix-up mode, you would need at least 90 seconds. So 29 seconds. Yeah. So performance improvements by 300% for a heavy operation, and much more performance gains for simple operations like renaming a spot color or changing just a page geometry box, a trim box, or whatever. So I think this was the most techy part of the presentation. Going back to more familiar terrain. Yeah. Please, if you find this interesting, exciting, promising, whatever, go to the online documentation. There's a couple of articles for the QuickFix chapter, and if you can think of QuickFix being useful to you, you should definitely read through this. Maybe not every line of JavaScript code, but all the rest. And before I'm going to close this presentation. There's a last piece that is implemented as a quick fix, but is interesting beyond just being a quick fix, and that's about depart. Let me create, yeah, that's good, a quick fix. Depart may not be familiar to all of you. Depart is a concept that was introduced with pdfVT for variable data printing. And its main feature is that you can group pages in a PDF file in a logical manner. One of the original ideas was that if you have bank account statements that you want, like large volume, like for 10,000 people or 100,000 people, and the monthly account statement needs to be prepared and printed and sent out. And then you may have like 100,000 pages because some people only get 1 or 2 pages of a bank account statement for that month. Other people get 20 pages and so on. And it would be nice if you could, on one side, put all the pages of these bank account statements into one file, because it makes the whole print processing in the output system easier. But you still have to know which of the pages belongs to which set of bank account statements pages. And the mechanism that was invented for this was called depart, partitioning the PDF file into logical groups of pages. And a very promising thing. Unfortunately, it's taking quite a bit of time for the industry to adopt it. We have run into customers who do not necessarily process bank account statements, but have simpler requirements, where they have photo books, and each of the photo books has 16 pages. And they need a mechanism in a 10,000 page file to know where the second photo book begins and ends, and where the third begins and ends, and so on. So what we've come up with is to inject depart information without much ado that would cover a situation like that. And so in this list of quick fix features, I do have a depart related option called inject depart. I insert it as a step here, and I need a grouping expression. And this is, again, the same syntax as for page selectors. So I could be explicit and say, I want to have 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12, and so on. But of course, this would be not very dynamic. So the next book comes along and has more pages or fewer pages. It may not fit. I could say every 4 pages. Yeah. Or I could do other things. I could do 1 to 2, -2, -2 to -1. So that would be the first 2 pages and the last 2 pages, and then the rest. One good thing about this is you don't have to think about the rest. You could write down 3 to -3. But what the depart quick fix will do, whatever is not specified by this expression will put into its own group of pages. So either way, this would divide the PDF file into 3 parts. consisting of the first 2 pages, the last 2 pages, and everything in between. I have to provide a node name because at least some semantic is needed here. So I could call this cover versus content. And inject depart, I have that. So let's try. I have to carry out this QuickFix in this case because in test mode we don't have a mechanism to look at depart information. So let me save this out. Inject depart, run it, create a new file with the depart information, and if all goes well, it actually failed. Always these live demonstrations. I'm not sure, maybe I need the 3 to -3 anyway. No, still a stupid mistake. Just to get to some results sooner, I will do the 4 star, so groups of 4. Free define. Yeah. Thank you. Cover versus body pages. And it's actually more explicit, okay? Let's try. Looks much better now. There must have been a small mistake in how I wrote down things. Maybe I swapped the minus sign with a hyphen. Nobody knows. There's one slight change that you may have noticed. In the lower left part, there's a depart button. So as soon as pdfToolbox finds depart information inside the PDF file, it will show this depart button. And it's actually an interactive button. You could try to locate something with depart in the menus. So there is an explore depart under tools, but it's much easier. Just click on depart and we'll load a dialog that is showing you the implementer of the depart viewer sits right next to me and he was just saying, yeah, it works. Which gives you an overview of all the logical group of pages. So in this case, it's telling me there's the first group starts at page number 1 and ends at page number 2, and then 3 to 13 and 14 to 15. So if I had a PDF file where the first 2 pages, last 2 pages would be covers, front and back side of the covers, this would give me a nice grouping of these parts of the PDF file, and I could use this introduction to print the covers maybe on different substrate, maybe glossy coated paper, and the content in black and white on some less expensive substrate. Okay, so this is another highlight that we have introduced in the context of implementing PDF fixes, and I guess some of you could find this interesting. Back to my presentation and the many pages I still have here. Just 1 page. Thank you. If you have any thoughts, questions, emotions, please let us know. We are here now, and we will be here after now for a long time, hopefully. And we really care about feedback. So if you find this interesting, you start playing around with it and you run into something that does not do what you wanted to do, you need more quick fix features, you need extensions to existing ones, we definitely want to hear from you. Thank you.